Welcome to this episode of Alive and Thriving. Today, I'm going to be chatting to you about some of the lessons that I have learned along my journey towards coming off that autopilot living and living more intentionally. And specifically, I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that I have learned around my morning routine. And this conversation literally was just sparked by mum and I sitting down on this beautiful beach down at Jervis Bay. And this conversation is something that we were having, and I just had this pull, this sacred response to come and record this episode for you. So I hope you like it. I hope that you are able to take these lessons that I have already had to experience, that I am sharing with you, so that perhaps you don't have to learn them for yourself. So let's get into the episode. Grab a cuppa, put your earphones in, however you like to listen, and we will get started.
You're listening to Alive and Thriving with Jessica Reed, the podcast that's all about empowering you to achieve optimal wellness and success through self-care, holistic practices, and raw conversations. Jessica and her expert guests are here to share powerful insights and strategies to help you overcome stress and anxiety, take charge of your life, and thrive in life and in business. Grab a cuppa and let's dive in.
So as I record this episode, I'm sitting down at beautiful Grenfell Beach in Jervis Bay, and it is just, oh my God, picture perfect. If you have never been here, you need to. And if you are feeling disconnected from yourself, from nature, from life, then definitely find a beautiful spot like this and go and take some time out and sit down and just breathe it in. I am here with the girls. Luckily I have my parents with me, and so I was able to say to mum, I've just had an idea for the podcast for this week, so can I run off and record it? And so as I sit here, I am sitting on a sand dune in the sunshine with my feet grounded into the earth, and it just feels so good. Now, I want to share with you, I mentioned in the intro, some lessons that I have learned, particularly around coming off autopilot living, something that I have been intentionally trying to do for quite a while now, something that has been in my conscious awareness. But just like with everything, habits, changes, these things take time. And there's been quite a few times where I have defaulted back into that autopilot. And, I have this conversation with my private clients all the time that, just like I just said then, these changes, these things do take time. And those autopilot ways of living, they don't just magically disappear. Those autopilot reactions, the autopilot behaviours, it takes conscious awareness to be able to bring change to these. Now, I have recently, I guess, thank you to my self-awareness. Like, without my self-awareness, I never, ever would have even been able to pick up on this. But I have recently just defaulted back into this like anxious pattern of living. And that was just something that, thank goodness, as I said, with my self-awareness, I was able to be aware of, because without that, it could have spiraled and it could have quickly become something that took over my life again, really, really quickly. But because I have self-awareness, and that is something that I have really intentionally worked on for many, many years, I was able to actually recognize from almost like an observation perspective what was happening. Now, I talk to my clients all the time about their autopilot living. And autopilot, it's easy because we don't have to put effort into it. It just happens. We make the same choices every day. We have the same reactions every day. It is easy, and it probably feels safe for you as well to be in this autopilot living. Oh, it's a bit breezy. I hope you can't hear that. I've got my little microphone, but hopefully that breeze isn't too loud. So it feels safe to be in this state of autopilot living. And I would really love to invite you for a moment to have a bit of a think about what your autopilot behaviors are. Is your autopilot way of living defaulting to stress? Is it defaulting to anxiety? Is it defaulting to reactions rather than responses? Is your autopilot living just, surviving? Is it just day to day surviving rather than living? Now, one of the lessons that I really wanted to intentionally share with you today, and it linked back with autopilot living, was my mom and I. We were having a chat down at the beach, and we were talking about morning routines. And, just that ability to be able to start your day with a morning routine, something that I learned a lot about from my friend Jada, who is a coach who actually helps people to curate a morning routine that is going to serve them and that is going to help boost their well-being as well as their professional growth and start their day off, in an amazing way. And so I participated in Jada's program, and that as an early rising program. We showed up every day, and she hosted, an early rising program that incorporated different things, movement, mental, spiritual, and physical and emotional work. Now, when that program finished, I was left to my own device. And I thought, yep, I'm going to curate a program because I was aware that due to a trauma that I had had at the end of April, that I was starting to default back into anxious victim mindset. And so I wanted to curate a program that specifically targeted my energy, that helped me feel grounded. And when I say my energy, I don't mean my energy to get up out of bed. I mean my energy pathways in my body that were clearly needing a little bit of help. So my energy to ground myself and to intentionally reprogram my brain and interrupt these anxiety pathways. But here's my big rookie mistake that I want to share with you. I was getting up earlier. I had this beautiful space set up. I was going into my space every morning, but I didn't have a solid plan. I had like an imaginary plan. I had like I'm going to get up and I'm going to do a meditation and I'm going to pull a card and I'm going to connect in spiritually and I'm going to ground myself and I'm going to balance my energies and balance my chakras and I'm going to reprogram my mind. I just had all these things in my head that I was going to do in my morning and try and exercise as well. Now, going into this morning routine without a plan meant that I was not actually going in intentionally, and I've only really just come to this realization recently. Now, I thought, okay, this is going to benefit my day so much, and it would have if I was doing it, a little differently. So thinking, I'm coming in and I'm doing this meditation and I'm doing this breath work and I'm doing whatever I was doing. But because I wasn't doing it intentionally, I was actually jumping from one thing to another. And my scattered, anxious brain, my autopilot living brain, my brain that was jumping from one thing to the next thing and really struggling to be in the present moment, that continued to play out in my morning routine where I thought I was sitting there being intentional. And so here I was doing a couple of breaths and then getting into meditation, but then getting out of meditation and then jumping into my chakra work and then pulling my card. And then once I pulled my card, not really intentionally journeying or tuning into that, just going, okay, I've ticked that off. I've done this. What's next? And it only really occurred to me a couple of days ago or maybe a week or two ago that I was actually really, really struggling to stay present in the moment. And that is how I was autopilot living before I had this trauma in April. I had defaulted back to my autopilot. I was not able to come into the moment even when I thought I was. So I was walking away from this morning routine, and I don't know, maybe you can relate. Maybe you do meditate, but while you're meditating, you're actually thinking of all the things that you've got to do, and then you get up from your meditation and you think, yep, I've done a meditation, so now I'm going to reap all the benefits of that. But actually, your mind never even focused on one thing. Or maybe you're doing some breath work, but you're rushing through it. Or maybe you're doing exercise, but you're not intentionally listening to what your body needs from your workout and what workout is going to be right for you. And so you're just autopiloting onto your default patterns and your default behaviors. And you think that you're doing all the right things to support your mental and your emotional and your physical well-being. You're up at 5 or 6 and you're doing the early rising stuff and you're doing this morning routine, but is it actually working? And maybe it's not the morning for you. Maybe it's that you do your self-care at different times. But I guess my big question, coming from this lesson that I have learned, that I have now had to stop and reflect on, realizing that even though I thought I was doing things to interrupt my autopilot living, I wasn't, because I was actually doing these things from the mentality of my autopilot living. Are you doing that too? Are you doing that? Can you stop and reflect on the things that you're doing? Can you stop and reflect on your day and ask yourself, when do I actually give myself permission to pause? And I've got little people, they come in while I'm doing my morning routine, and sometimes I feel like that, well, actually, no, at first that was a story, that was an excuse. Oh, but Amelia comes in. How could you possibly focus? Well, guess what? Since coming to this realization that even though I thought I was being intentional, I wasn't, I have scaled back my morning routine. And I have thought about what are just 3 things that are really going to support me just for this week. This doesn't have to be my permanent routine. Now, where I'm at physically dealing with whiplash means that I do have to be really mindful about how I move my body. So it's a bit of cardio, but primarily with lower body, nothing laying on my back, being really careful about how my neck moves. So really, really intentional. So that's something that I am incorporating. But when I am looking at how I am actually bringing stillness to my mind and helping myself to bring safety again to coming into the present moment. And when I say safety, I just mean like your nervous system finds safety in what it knows. And if what it knows is being on the go and being busy, your mind thoughts being scattered, having trouble coming into the present moment, if that's what your nervous system knows to be safe, then that's what it's going to want to continue to do. So how can I gradually expose my nervous system to feeling safe? So I am creating that safety for my nervous system to retrain it and continue to expose it to the fact that it is actually indeed safe for me to pull back and not be living on autopilot and not be functioning from fight or flight. And I have intentionally chosen 3 things in my morning that will support that are achievable for me. And instead of looking at it like this is what I'm going to be doing forever, this is my routine for this week. This is what I need for this week. So I already mentioned that intentional exercise, that intentional movement. My routine consists of I light an incense, and then I am doing an energy routine. And now this is what I have decided to prioritize because I'm actually getting it done. Because it doesn't matter for me if my girls come in, they can do it with me. And at this point in where I am at in my recovery from what happened at the end of April is I need my energies to be flowing freely and to be well balanced in my body so that I can heal mentally and physically. So I am doing this energy routine as my very, very first priority. The next thing that I then do is pull a card. And then from there, I journal about what that card means to me. Now, if there is any emotion that comes up, then I will add in some tapping. But for me right now, that's what my morning routine is. So rather than trying to do all the things where I was completely scattered and unfocused and really just wasting my time thinking that I was doing these intentional things to help me come back into the moment, but I wasn't. This is what I'm focusing on. And just quickly on a side note too, if you are trying to heal from something and or just you just want to live in a space of health and vitality and you are not incorporating some sort of energy routine into your body, and I don't mean energy as in to get up and go, I mean the flow of energy through the different energy systems like your meridians and your chakras in your body. If you are not supporting that every single day, then you are going to notice that it is harder for you to heal. You are going to notice that, maybe you're not feeling at your optimum. And this is something that you want to explore more on a deeper level and more sort of tailored to you, and how you can use that to help you come off autopilot and come out of stress and anxiety and trauma-based living. Then I would love to have a chat to you. We can have a chat, a private chat, a bit of a phone call, and see if working one-on-one together might actually be something that really helps you in that space. So that is what I am doing now in my mornings, and that is how I am helping myself to come back into the moment and to come back off that autopilot default way of living that I had defaulted to after the accident, which again was anxiety and stress and just this really scattered, unfocused living. And what I have noticed, what I have really, really noticed since implementing this particular routine that is actually benefiting me. So this could look like anything for you. If it's meditation for you, if it's tapping for you, if it's breath work, whatever it is for you, this could look like anything for you. And I do incorporate some breathing, by the way, into that. That sort of just comes with the card process that I have. But whatever it is for you, if you can find something that's actually doable and achievable, then latch onto it. Now, what I have found is that since I have been doing this routine that is actually achievable for me, that is actually getting me the desired results that I need in the morning, that self-awareness that I spoke about at the beginning of this episode, that is now increased so much more, because throughout my day, I am consciously becoming aware frequently if I'm coming out of that intentional mindful space and into autopilot. And my conversations, I'm more present with my kids because I'm able to actually focus and bring myself into the moment and listen to the conversations and respond rather than react to circumstances and situations. And I'm noticing more beauty around me. And I feel like things have slowed down around me, even though I'm still achieving the same amount. In fact, I'm probably achieving more because I slowed down. I feel like that's a conversation for a whole nother day. So that is the benefit for me of coming off autopilot. But just like I say to my clients, it's not a quick fix. It's like building a muscle. You need to continually expose yourself to what you want to be achieving. And so I would really encourage you as you go about your day to have a look and see, where are you defaulting to autopilot? That's your homework. That's your task after today's podcast. Become aware in your life. Where are you defaulting to autopilot? And once you have that awareness, you can then consciously start to make changes, and then have a think, how are you going to start to gently expose yourself to the idea of slowing down or sitting with yourself, or just that intentional moment of coming out of stress response and returning your body back to a state of homeostasis, a regulated nervous system. How are you going to be doing that for yourself as well? So I hope you have the most beautiful day, and thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I cannot wait to see you and support you and have you back here next week.
Wow, what a journey it's been today. We are so grateful for each and every one of you who tuned in to Alive and Thriving. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help us keep growing, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on your favourite platform. It's a simple but powerful way to support a small business like ours to continue to make an impact.